Good morning. Good morning. It is 10 o'clock on January 21st, 2025. This is Training Wheels, in which we take a look at the daily lessons of A Course in Miracles according to a book that I wrote called Training Wheels, which really tries to look at the lessons of A Course from an average everyday point of view. And we are on lesson 18 right now. So I want to thank Cindy Krupp and An Open Door for making this gathering possible. If you're interested in looking at other gatherings, you can go to Cindy's website, An Open Door, and you'll find all the classes and lots of information on that website. It's a truly wonderful place to meet, and lots of good things happen there. So check it out. All right, as people are gathering, um, I think we're going to have an interesting conversation today based on this teaching, based on this lesson. So go ahead and if you want to, you can turn your video off or you can leave it on, whatever you'd like to do. I'm going to turn mine off and just have a little bit of a meditative settling in as we start on this lesson. What I usually do is I read the previous 18 lessons or 17 lessons before I read lesson 18. And Cindy was the one that sort of introduced this concept to us because it shows us, even though we are told in the workbook, just do one lesson a day, it does have a deepening effect to read the lessons one after another. So that's what we'll do. So settle in, feel your feet on the floor, get your coughs out. Just be present where we are with us. There are no private thoughts, so we're all here, gathered in a place I will describe a little bit later called the Hill. We're all on the hill together. I appreciate you. I'm glad you're here, truly. Nothing I see means anything. I have given everything I see all the meaning it has for me. I do not understand anything I see. These thoughts do not mean anything. I am never upset for the reason I think. I am upset because I see something that is not there. I see only the past. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I see nothing as it is now. My thoughts do not mean anything. My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. I am upset because I see a meaningless world. A meaningless world engenders fear. God did not create a meaningless world. My thoughts are images I have made. I have no neutral thoughts. I see no neutral things. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing. You've been challenged to question the way you see the world. A meaningless world engenders fear. I'm upset because I see a meaningless world. We've practiced with the idea that our thoughts are meaningless, and that is why we have created a meaningless world. So how is it that this world appears meaningless to so many of us? The truth is, we are never, ever, ever alone in our thoughts, no matter how alone we may perceive ourselves to be in the moment. Most people are familiar with the concept of ESP, or extrasensory perception. Many have had the experience of, quote unquote, knowing when the phone is going to ring and who would be on the other end. While these are intriguing and interesting experiences, this lesson, I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing, goes way beyond ESP. We are now asked to deny the denial of our shared humanity. We are now asked to deny the denial of our shared humanity. No less than this is possible. The world we think we see, the world we think we perceive individually, is an illusion produced by group thought. Put another way, it's a dream we seem to be having alone together. It's a dream we seem to be having alone together. What does alone together mean? It means oneness, having the experience of apparent separation. It is this we must confront to heal the unhealed mind. Just relax into your body right now and place your awareness on your breath. And now open your eyes and look gently at the world around you. You can allow your gaze to rest softly on specific things, objects. And then say in your mind, I am not alone in experiencing the effects of how I see this paper, this wall, this tree, this snow. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of how I see whatever is in my world. Ken Wapnick says the basic law of mind is the law of extension, in which a cause extends itself outward in the form of effects. God, Source, Atma, all that is, the invisible infinite, is the first and only cause. The very reality of causing effects establishes cause as it is. The very reality of causing effects establishes the infinite, invisible, as cause. We are God's extension, and change, real change, can only be introduced at the level of cause, not at the level of effect. Effects cannot turn around and create their cause. The outer world is merely an effect of your mind, and the only meaningful healing is to heal at the source, cause, and that is to change your mind. The ego has tried to reverse cause and effect, telling you the world and the body are your cause, and you are their effect. This is where seek but do not find comes into play. We spend lifetimes trying to change the outer world and avoid looking inward at the fear that is its foundation. The egoic mind is not endowed with causative power, which is why the egoic mind cannot have any real effects, which is why guilt is a waste of time. When we know the ego is baseless and we ignore the fear that it survives and thrives on, we turn to our real cause, which is infinite, indivisible, formless, intimate. I am awareness, which is what we are. You may still complain about fear, A Course in Miracles writes, but you nevertheless persist in making yourself fearful. I have already indicated that you cannot ask me, the Christ consciousness, to release you from fear. I know it doesn't exist, but you do not. If I intervened between your thoughts and their results, I would be tampering with a basic law of cause and effect, the most fundamental law there is. I would hardly help you if I depreciated the power of your own thinking. It is much more helpful to remind you that you did not guard your thoughts carefully. And only right-mindedness can correct in a way that has any real effect. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing. When I understand that the effects of my seeing are the result of a mind that is projecting its fear outward, I begin to heal. When I change my mind and remember that I am an effect of cause, which is love, infinite, absolute, I begin to change the effects of my seeing. And when I change the effects of my seeing, the whole group begins to change. My thoughts are images I have made. I have no neutral thoughts. I see no neutral things. And I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing. When you're ready, come on back and we'll talk about the telepathy tapes a little bit. First, I'll just open it up and see if there's anyone that wants to share. How did that lesson find you? It's really, it's really amazing to try to understand that we are creating group thought and group seeing. A course doesn't really get too involved in explaining what the group thought and the group seeing really is. And I think that's because fundamentally a course is trying to, it's not trying, it is working at the level of the individual mind because that's where change really begins. There is increasing evidence that minds are shared among the most unlikely people that we can imagine. And that's what the telepathy tapes are all about, which I would love to talk about, but I think and I'm happy to. I hope that we can share those for a Thursday podcast at some point. But for now, Livy, come to the head of the table.
Hi, and good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm just kind of claiming my seat and just saying that this lesson in your reading was exactly what I needed this morning. I woke up and so the thinking mind is full of overwhelm a little bit and shoulds and old thought patterns. And so this is right on course with exactly what I needed this morning. And I just thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Alka, good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to say it took me a while to wrap my head around the lesson. You had to repeat it quite a few times before I wouldn't say I understood it, but before I actually could look around and see all the stuff and think, yes, it could affect other people how I perceive it, or, well, if I see a plant and say how beautiful it is, it affects it too. But I did need to hear your thing about how we put ourselves in fear. Needed to hear it at this time. That was very helpful. Thank you. That's all.
Yeah. One of the things that is helpful when thinking about group thought is if I come into a room that has 20 people, probably everyone in the room that can count would agree that there are 20 people. And everyone would agree that there are 4 walls in the room. And everyone would agree that Jane has on a purple dress and that the time is 11:30 in the morning. Everyone could agree on that. And yet each one of us would be having separate thoughts. So on one level, we all agree that it's 11:30 and that Jane's dress is the color purple or whatever. But Jack might be thinking, I have to go to the airport and pick my wife up in half an hour, and I need to get out of this class. Right? What is that? What is that? Right? This world is created at the level of group thought. And the apparent cause is fear of separation. The apparent cause of the world is a belief in separation, which is why we all see separate objects and we all have separate thoughts. So it's both and. It's both group thought and separate thought happening at the same time. Right? What an amazingly creative mind thought that up. And that is what we are. We are that. Right? And then we veil ourselves to ourselves and forget that we've done it. But we are being reminded in ways that are really interesting. Let's have David come to the head of the table, and then maybe we can talk about that.
But yeah, one thing about group thought, I was thinking about group thought, but I believe, I guess, that I don't trust the group. I mean, it's almost like I need to hold on to my individual thought, even though it's lonely and sometimes depressing. It's just like I said, I don't have it's like it's that separateness. It's the same thing as separate from God, separate from group. It's all the same thing because God is the group and the group is God. So it's to me it's kind of the same thing. But the other side of that coin is I was just thinking in my meeting. It was yesterday's meeting that I was going to at 7 o'clock in the morning. Some person came in and we did had like an instant look. We looked at each other and locked our eyes, and it was like we were one. I mean, just for that, even though we went on, and looked somewhere else or talked about this or talked about that, we held on to that oneness for a while, and it was like I can't think of anything that's a more that's a stronger, better feeling than that oneness, or two-ness or ten-ness or whatever, that people can have. Maybe that's the same. Maybe that's what, in a negative sense, maybe that, we can have a group, we can have a group bliss or a group happiness. We can also have mob violence. Maybe it's the same thing in a very negative way. But I totally agree that that's a thing. In other words, we have, even though I fear this situation, I have a drive, an urge, a need for that to be joined. And when I get over my fear or get dragged, screaming and protesting into the group, I feel much better and much safer and much more. I feel much more oneness when I actually allow myself to be part of whatever it is. So this is a really good. It's so interesting how the lessons, especially when we have tough times here in politics and all these things are going on, and Gaza and Israel and the fires, how much more they mean to me this time around after I've done it 50 times, going through at least starting going through the lessons. They mean so much more right now because there's so much more going on, and I'm so much more dialed in because it's tough stuff that we have to deal with. So it's like, thank God for the lessons, and that's not. I guess that's a pun, but it's true. So thank you for listening. I'm in.
Thank you, David. Thank you. It was wonderful. Cindy, come to the head of the table.
I'm hoping you'll speak to, dare I say, free will, our sense of individual responsibility within the group consciousness. Can you say what's alive for you in that, with that?
Ask me more. Say more about that.
I feel comfortable within this idea of homelessness. At least at this point, there's an acceptance without a lot of curiosity. And perhaps some of this question arises as I was spending time with Greg Foster. He's madly in love with diving, and yet there's so many lessons in that podcast we're going to talk about on Thursday that there's a sense of integration here relative to my own practice, which I don't think will ever be diving in very cold water in the kelp forest in South Africa, right? So, but I was sitting, even as I was preparing for Thursday, and I was listening to the telepathy tapes and everything else that's part of my practice. There's a recognition that we're all in it together and a relaxation in that. And Cindy is looking at, um, well, so where do I place my attention in this? And what is, if Cindy wants to be of service in a way that brings more love into the world or more truth into the world, or what is Cindy's role within this? There's this sense of an individuated expression within the group. And what's the most useful thing, whatever I am, can do with that, within the understanding that there is a sense of being pulled continuously back into the collective or the group think. Oh, what is that? Is that Orson Welles, that term, group think? Did that come from Animal Farm? All of a sudden, I'm like remembering Animal Farm. Was that Animal Farm or 1984? This idea of groupthink, 1984? I haven't used that term in such a long time. So, I'm interested in you speaking to it, Amy. It's a question that's been floating around here. Like, if my desire is to break out of a certain frequency of groupthink, the fear-based frequency of groupthink, there's a sense that I have the ability to rise above that and perhaps be part of a group that has a groupthink at a higher vibration and then a higher vibration. What's my sense of, is it Lord of the Flies? Wow. I would love your take, or what's coming through you relative to my personal responsibility within the group, if that makes sense. Not Cindy's, in general.
First of all, one is here, one has elected to be part of the group. That's the first choice. Can you hear the phone? Okay, good.
No, I'm watching. Kendall has confirmed that groupthink originally came from 1984.
Well,
That's
yeah.
when I was smiling.
So there are a number of things in what you said. You talked about frequency and rising to a certain level of frequency. So if I've joined a group, then there must be something in that group frequency that I'm attracted to or that I relate to. So that would be part of the first thing that I would be joining. I would be adding my frequency to that group, which is what we all are doing here. And then just based on my own experience, I would use the group experience, my experience in the group, as a way to practice my own personal exploration. And I'm not really answering your question very well, perhaps, because I'm not really sure I understood your question, but I'm doing the best I can with it. In my own experience in this group, there are times when I either don't understand, or I get frustrated, or I may disagree, or someone may say something in the group that wounds me. That has happened. It hasn't happened very often, but it's happened. And so my experience in the group is to go back to what the truth is which is that I'm upset because I see something that's not there. I don't know what that person was thinking. But what do I know? I know that I am eternal, unlimited, and that nothing can hurt me. And so I'm going to choose not to agree with the thought that something can hurt me. And I contribute that to the group. That's what I contribute. And it raises the whole group when that happens. So every time there is an opportunity to feel somehow unsupported by the group, whether it's in an instance or usually it's just an instant, I use the opportunity to ask whether it's true or not, and then come back to the truth. And I think we probably have all done that. Has anyone else done that? I think we've probably all done that. And I'll answer it in one other way too, and this is for Barbara. There are times because of groupthink, and I don't mean this in the 1984 way, because we share a mind, especially at night as we're drifting off and we are open and expanding into letting go of this world and falling asleep, our mind becomes open to thoughts, feelings, emotions, waves, frequencies that are from the surrounding whatever. And they may match something in our unconscious that links up, and we may have trouble falling asleep. We may feel anxious or nervous for reasons that we don't understand, and we can't even relate it to something that happened during the day. That happened to me last night, and what I did, I always think about Barbara with this, was to go back into realizing that whatever it was that was arising was arising within my greater consciousness, and that my contribution to group consciousness was to hold that within my larger self, my big S self, and allow it to move. But that's not what I am. That anxious thought is not what I am. I am the container in which the awareness of the anxious thought is arising. And that's my service to the group. And I let it move. I let it move. I let it move. And I have to do that over and over again. Because guess what? The group consciousness is creating a world of fear, right? And just because I do it once doesn't mean that it will never happen again. In fact, it means I now probably will become a healer at a level that I don't even understand. And Barbara, all of us are healers at levels we don't even understand. So, Cindy, I will shut up and thank you for
No.
your question.
I don't want you to shut up. I just would like to reflect back to you what I just heard you say brilliantly to make sure we're on the same frequency. So, what I heard you say, and actually there's two levels and I got chills. So we're all here intentionally in this group, an open door. And we have a general intention within this group to walk up Dr. Hawkins' ladder of frequency. You know, we might not all look at it that way, but it's a great thing. And I have to refer to Richard at least once in every meeting. So we could say that was done. And so within the construct of this group, If we find ourselves feeling attacked or triggered or disagreeing or whatever, what I heard you say, then we get to go and say, oh, look at this. I am upset because I've seen something that isn't here. It must be inside. And it's my responsibility within this group to do the inner work. And as that is cleared, the entire group gets lifted. Right? So I heard you say that as a sense of responsibility. And then in a larger construct, we are all individually parts of much larger groups. Like we step out of this group, and in our higher vibration, this is at least how what I'm feeling seems to be aligned with what you said. I now step out of this group into a conversation with my sisters or my children or society or the church or, somebody talking politics. And I can notice that they're at a different frequency than I'm here. And I got a personal responsibility to hold my space, however that looks. And when I do that, in what you said, I become the ability perhaps for others to heal. And I don't have to do anything but hold myself accountable to my frequency or my level of consciousness, and notice if the larger collective is attempting to pull me down into something lower, and then I could do the work again and come back here. So that's what I heard you say.
Yeah,
And
that's fundamentally it. I would just add one more thing, and then we'll let Patricia speak. When I am in my moment at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. and there is an amorphous discomfort, I can't name it, I can't call it anything, I can't pinpoint it to anything. It's just an amorphous discomfort that I notice within my being. And when I recognize myself, my big self, as that which is aware of the discomfort, and I remember that I am the infinite awareness in which that discomfort seems to be arising. When I make that connection through the discomfort with my true self, and I feel it and I know it, that is my gift to the world. And every time I do that, and I truly feel it and know it, that's when the light just shines. That's when I become the light of the world. I am the light of the world. And that's what we all are. And the more I do it, and it is hard to get to that point, but the more I do it, the stronger the light becomes. And as, who was it? She's a Buddhist teacher.
Emma?
Nope, not Pema. Salzberg, Sharon Salzberg. Right. The more I go away from center field and then come back, I go away and then I find a path back. The more paths I wear back to center field, the more paths I actually create for not just for myself, but for everyone else. Right? Like I have to get lost to find my way home again. And part of our contribution to source, to first cause, is to go as far away as we can and find our way back again, right? That just expands first cause so much, right? Patricia.
Thank you. Being lost, what a good way to put it, and it certainly refers to what I have been feeling. I hurt someone, not intentionally, but unintentionally, and I feel so badly. And this person, has been distant and refuses to talk to me. I feel so badly. I've taken it on with guilt, with fear, and I'm lost in it. So I could use a little help right now. Thank you.
Oh gosh, we have all been there. We have all been there. What you're saying reminds me of a conversation I had with a woman a long time ago, and she was a yogic practitioner, and some of you have heard me tell this story before. Anyway, we got into a conversation, and she had been same situation. She had hurt someone and then been hurt by their response back, and it had been a decade that she had been in this situation. And so I just suggested to her that she could consider forgiving herself for hurting herself, which she hadn't really thought of before. And I just would say, I know David probably, I don't want to put David on the spot because David has brought this subject up many times. It doesn't matter whether the hurt was inadvertent or not. The other person feels hurt, and that is their reality, right? And that's actually where your responsibility ends, right? Right? That's where your responsibility ends. Because if I am hurt, it's because I have accepted the possibility that I am not a child of God and that someone can hurt me. I've accepted that. And no one can change that from me but myself.
One of the things, excuse me for interrupting you, but one of the things that listening to the telepathy tapes, it's remarkable, is that I have been sending healing thoughts to her. I haven't, but it hasn't changed anything.
Well, maybe also send healing thoughts to yourself and remember
Maybe.
who you are. And is it true that you need her forgiveness in order for you to forgive yourself?
I can forgive myself. Sort of. In words, I forgive myself. It's words. It's not taken in. The guilt is still there. Oh, I did something bad. I've hurt someone. That hurts me when I hurt someone.
Oh my gosh, we have a lot of things in the chat. Alka says, your responsibility is to forgive yourself and act differently in the same situation. Her responsibility is to not hold on to the hurt.
Right.
Right? Rana
Yes,
says,
that's true.
yep. And Rana says, I use the borderland.
I don't understand.
Okay. We have Richard and then David. Rana, do you want to come on and explain the borderland? I don't know if you have time because your screen's not up. So
I can come on. I was trying to switch back to my computer because I was doing things and it won't let me do that. So if you don't mind me being on my phone, I'll come on.
yeah.
Hello. Okay. This is so awkward. Hi, Patricia. Good to see you. So this is something that was offered to me early on in this journey. And, it's, I guess, some visualization. So I see myself and the person I'm concerned about. And what's suggested is that with the love of the Holy Spirit, I can jump out of this timeline. So I go vertical with this person and I go to the altar in the borderland and I see the truth. laying side by side to the illusion. The illusion being that I hurt somebody, right? That I did something, that this thing that occurred actually happened somewhere. And then all the beautiful things people have shared about my part and her part and all that, and just wrapping both of us together in God's love. And when I place the truth next to that illusion, all that remains is the truth. And I sit and sink there. It's the same place Amy was talking about as I become aware that there's a thought arising of fear, but I am not that fear. I become aware that there's a thought of rising of guilt. I am not that guilt. And what my brother or I did never really happened, but it is such a gift for me to remember what we truly are. So that is how I've been taught to use the borderland. Thank you for the reminder, Patricia.
Thank you for the help, Rhoda.
I thank you too, Rana. That was beautiful. It is so often that we can use the Holy Spirit as a way to join with another person. Right? So many, many times I will send forgiveness or a message or something through the Holy Spirit. I just focus on the Holy Spirit and then ask the Holy Spirit to send what needs to be sent. And I know it's done. I know it's done. And then I rest, right? And then I rest. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Rana. David, did you were up before, were you before Richard or was Richard?
Richard
Okay.
was before.
Okay, Richard, come on down.
Hi, everybody. Great shares. I think Patricia's comment was excellent. I think the guidance you all provided on the subject was great. And so I'm going to talk about the collective mind issue. I haven't listened to the telepathy tape yet, but what came to mind was Abraham Hicks and Bashar. Abraham Hicks Abraham is a collective of souls, a collective of minds that speak through Hicks. And Bashar talked about other planets on our solar system that evolved to a point where they no longer are physical. They were a collective mind. So when I hear a collective mind, I think of the evolution of the race here on the planet, for example. We're all evolving to a collective mind, consciously. So the more we focus on healing our own minds and raising our own consciousness, we're actually contributing to the collective mind that the earth will eventually become an evolution within the illusion. All right. So I don't take any responsibility for making that happen, other than my personal responsibility to work on it as best I can. I don't feel I have a responsibility to help other separate selves raise their consciousness. That's their job. I can raise mine, and because all minds are joined, when we join, as someone else said earlier, we erase each other's consciousness. So my only responsibility is to work on me as a separate self, a separate consciousness within the illusion. And as I raise my consciousness, by healing my mind, by doing the lessons of the Course for me, then I raise my consciousness, and that's my contribution to the collective. My job is not to go around helping you all heal your mind. Well, that's our job, individual as separate selves within the dream. So that's my view of it. And I think as a planet, we're evolving to a collective mind as we evolve consciously.
Oh,
So,
Richard,
love you all.
thank you, Richard. You are just speaking the telepathy tapes beautifully. That is exactly what seems to be happening here. That the researchers are looking at non-speaking autistic kids, and the non-speaking autistic kids describe words, trying to use words, because they're so adept at speaking to each other telepathically. They say using words is like trying to drink an elephant through a straw. Because words are so blunt. They're such a blunt instrument. And they all meet on this place called The Hill, where after school they'll run up and, they'll put pillows over their head or a blanket over their heads, and they all go and meet there. And one kid says, my best friend is this kid lives in Houston. He says, my best friend comes from a place called Denmark. It's just amazing. The telepathy tapes are on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search the telepathy tapes, and they're all there. And you can listen to them on YouTube and start with the first one. But it's just phenomenal. But it's just what you're saying, Richard. We're beginning to really see that the ones that are actually handicapped are the ones that use this to talk. David, come to the head of the table, my friend.
Right. Thank you. When you referred to me a minute ago, I was thinking, I wonder what she means. And you say I keep going back to the same theme. And what comes to mind is Arlo Guthrie singing Alice's Restaurant, and I'll go around. Here it comes around again. So I come back because I had a crisis. I had a and then it didn't get resolved. And it just, like you say, it'll just keep coming around again. But one of the things, I was writing about, earlier, if I have to get lost to find my way back, but I think I choose to get lost because I don't vibrate at the same frequency as the group, even though I want to be in that group and I want to vibrate on their vibration level, I don't. And so I wander away because it's hard. It's so hard to try to do what I think I'm not capable of doing. And so, and I think another thing comes to mind is I need to forgive myself, but I can't forgive the self that I think I am, because the self that I think I am is unforgivable. But it's also not. I also need to understand that it's not who I am, and have the courage to look at who I am and forgive. And I guess I don't have to forgive that self. I just have to forgive myself for not believing that is myself, and then love the self that I have the courage to realize that I am. And so, thank you very much. You had this magic touch to push my buttons when they need to be pushed, and you just pushed a good one today. And so, thank you very much.
Oh, David, you have been so eloquent in our groups about, and so honest and open about making a mistake and then feeling badly about making a mistake and then going through the healing process. You've described that so beautifully for all of us so many times. That's why I thought you might have something to say, and you just did. I thank you for that.
Yeah, well, like I said, I keep coming back because I keep working on it. And I just I'm not going to give up.
Thank you. Well, it's 11 o'clock, and I know we're going to get together again in a little bit. I just want to thank everyone for being here. Cindy, when's our next gathering?
60 minutes from now.
60 minutes, and it's 12 stepping, right? And so, what are we addicted to? Our stories. Our stories. We're addicted to our egos. And so, this is an opportunity for us to continue this conversation with Cindy and the rest of everyone.
Love
Love
us. See you
Mwah.
soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.